Welcome to the Node.js Next 10 meeting for July 24th, 2024. Before we get started, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share? Okay, I'm just going to post in the chat the link to the minutes if people could add themselves to the minutes. I think there are a few things on the agenda, but I think we agreed that we would start and just go through the results, continue to go through the results of the survey. And with the hope coming that we could come up with some sort of actions or something like that. So let me get there. I can bring it up and surveys 2024. So I think we were still going through that one, sorry, the overview PDF. Okay, let's just open that. Okay, hopefully this will come through nicely. There. Okay. Like we've gone through where we live, chatted a little bit about that. We talked about the organization. Stop me if you don't remember going through things. I think we talked a little bit about the.
Is it me or you
Yeah, okay,
like
no, it's not-
Michael, you are a bit laggy.
Yeah, I was going to say to ask the same thing. I wasn't sure if it was my internet or not.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, if I stop sharing, does that make it better now?
Yes.
Okay.
That's strange.
That is strange, yeah. I have a pretty good, well, I have very fast internet. Is it anything like, I'm just looking to see if there's anything that's using a bunch of CPU. Let me try turning off some of these things. Just wondering if they use displays. Okay. No. Okay, let's try sharing again. Notes. Where's the okay?
Nope, still lagging.
Hmm.
Maybe I can share. That would help.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Okay, let me get the PDF. Where is it? Just 1 second and get the
Yeah, no
PDF.
problem.
Surveys. Nope.
I need a reboot or something.
Okay, share. Okay. Okay, so I should be sharing the PDF, right?
Yep.
So, okay, this is the row one. This is the overview.
I think it's better
So,
if you download it versus try and like the GitHub PDF viewer then makes you say next page and
okay, so wait a second. Uh, Let me open the project. 1 second. Surveys 2024. Okay. I will share the screen. Okay. Better?
Yep.
Okay. Ooh. So these are the results. What part did we stop?
I think
We did a 5 or 6 first, like that.
yeah. I think we talked about what companies.
I think we did a use case also. I think we stopped something around there and we just spent the last 5 minutes to go through multiple questions quickly just to have a global overview, I think.
Yeah. Okay, because yeah, let's just start at the use cases and then we can.
Okay. So what is your primary use case for Node.js, right? This one, Q6?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So we have most part is development of APIs with microservices. And the other big one is deploying front-end application. So I don't think this is unexpected.
No, it's not a surprise, but it's good data to confirm. Like that was my assumption.
Yeah, but if we group by category, like regroup the 3 about APIs, like the 3 about API 50%, a bit more, 50%, I think. And front end is 30%. Between Next and Remix application and just pure static. So it's nice to know that API is still the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is
script automation and CLI tools also like together takes 10%.
Yep.
So that's also like a big part.
Yeah. I don't remember what we wanted to say with testing. or maybe not that. How people that selected testing consider that? Because I'm guessing if you are writing a backend or front end, you will also write test. So did people wanted to emphasize that they are writing test, or do we have people that only write test and then it's a bit more QA or completely different kind of test using Node.js?
Yeah, I think this got a bit misunderstood because like if you use any of these, like if you develop APIs in Node, then you also write test in Node. So I think the like testing is a bit ambiguous as a use case. What could be an example of testing like as a use case?
I think it could cross over with using like it as command line tools or scripting or
Yeah. I think we can probably remove it. Like only 46 1% wrote testing.
I think it's kind of interesting though. Like
Yep.
it's interesting to have it broken down a little bit more. Like I would kind of group the CLI tools, the scripting, like those might be one bigger category, but it is interesting to see them broken down like that.
Yep. Like I'm wondering if for next year, do we want to maybe like this one? I remember we wanted to put serverless as a separate part just to see, like to have an overview of how many people are using serverless technology. And I think when we discussed about that, it was like maybe we want to piggyback or to send back this result to the SEA team or optimization team or performance, because it would make sense to have maybe Node.js being able to start faster or to have a smaller binary or something like that. So that's interesting to have. But for next year, do we want to have this question split it in 2 parts? What's your main category? I'm doing API, I'm doing front end, I'm doing scripting or some other stuff, and then have a subcategory with an open question of people saying what they are doing, or something a bit more precise. Mostly for the other, because it's like we have what 5% of people that are not doing front-end, back-end, CLI. So my main question, if you remove that from Node.js and JavaScript, what are you doing if it's not front-end, back-end, and CLI?
So let me read some of the other answer because I think it's interesting. It's probably not sharing because I'm sharing, but I think it's fine if I read them. So a lot of people said all of the above.
Okay.
And like some people just said like backend like backend application, backend operation, blah blah blah, web server. And one thing that we missed is also mobile application because they use like Cordova, which
Okay.
apparently uses Node. I'm not an expert on this, but
Yeah, it definitely does run Node under the covers.
Yeah, even
and
stuff like that
yeah.
technically.
So Cordova though would be like more actually desktop.
Yes, we have desktop application. Then we have let's see, APIs with serverless, blah blah blah. I don't know. Some people wrote the same thing again. Electron, everything above, full stack, full stack, full stack.
Yeah, you're right. We definitely missed like the like desktop and mobile applications.
Yes, that's important. And IoT, someone wrote IoT. And yeah, that's it. And all many of the above and maybe all. So for next year, I think we should consider adding like multiple and remember to add desktop and mobile.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I think
But
IoT
yeah.
would be an interesting one as well, just out of.
True. And yeah, IoT would be great. And I guess with the SEA effort to have a binary like a Node.js, a full package with Node.js could be great also to have information about how many people are using technically that.
Right. Yeah, that's a good. Taking some notes there.
Okay. Did we also read Q5? Like, I think we skipped Q5.
We may, yeah, we can go back and.
Yeah. Okay. This one I remember,
Yeah,
but
this
I
one.
don't remember Q5.
Mm.
Because it's like the amount of Node.js core maintainers is 78 core maintainers, so it makes sense. We have 11% of direct end users. This I thought that was a bit confusing. Users who run tools themselves.
Yeah, that came like those come directly from the.
I think the first survey we did, and we kept those.
Some of them come from like the what the stakeholders or whatever we called them.
Yep.
Like it's meant to be, you're not necessarily a developer, but you're running, all you're doing is running something, but you know that you're running Node, right?
Yeah.
Okay, probably like on this one we could improve like wording, because I don't know, for me it's not
So
it's not
I think
clear.
the wording is coming from, like Michael said, like stakeholder, something that we committed in the Node repository like 2 years ago, and it was a list of people using Node.js.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the name, but I agree that the wording is not maybe the best one.
Yeah, so we could refine what that is in that repo itself, right? And then use it for the next one. It does seem like we did a good job of hitting developers, because we got like 2,000 respondents for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Something like the organizations, I wonder if any of those, like, do we get coverage through the developers, or like, would it make sense in the future to try and do more like reach out to some of them?
Yeah, so I just put the link. It's a constituency people, and we took the wording from there, by the way. But I think for this one, Q5, if we go to the previous question, we already had a question about where are you coming from? So I'm guessing part of the, like what, 70% of the people that answer developer are working for startup company, big tech, and only individual is like, individual is like 15%. So, or were you thinking of another question, Michael?
Sorry, say it again?
So, like, from what you just said earlier, I was thinking that you said that application developer, we don't have a good view, or if they were part of organization.
Yeah, no, I was more like, we got good coverage of developers.
Oh, okay.
But did we get a good enough coverage of people who would have said that they're not developers, but they're organizations, or they're interested in Node, or like, because like developers will have one particular view potentially on their needs and stuff, whereas like, so we've got a good coverage there, but we don't necessarily have a good coverage for some of these other ones, like organizations, and even like library and package authors.
Yeah, so I have the feeling that the survey is a bit biased, because the people that we reach with the survey is usually people who are on social media like Twitter and LinkedIn, and those tend to be like technical people and not like more manager and like. So I think the results also like mirror that.
Right, and
That
I was just wondering, is there anything for us to think about on that front? Like, what would we do differently if we could, to try and get more of those other groups?
like I think it's more on like the marketing side to be able to reach this kind of people, but like to have a more wide like range of roles that fill the survey, rather than just developers.
Right. I guess application operators. But yeah, so maybe that's just like something to note. I'll note that in there. Like, for next time we do the survey, is there anything we can do to try and get it to like a broader audience?
Yeah. So just like, are we taking notes of the things to improve
I'm
on
taking a
next
few
time?
notes in the meeting minutes. So I just put that, is there anything we can do, right?
Yeah, I mean, once we finish going through, I think we can like add to the agenda some time to go back to the notes and create an issue with all the points that we have gathered from this meeting, and like
sounds good.
Wrap it, and it's okay.
I'm guessing we could even have an open PR for the next year survey, if we want to be really, really in advance.
Yeah, I don't know about that, because that makes a lot of noise, and like I also created a an issue on hey, let's change the way that we do surveys because it's not very sustainable right now. So I think in the next meetings we can also have a look at that.
I mean, like how we
But-
develop questions.
No, I mean like how we conduct the survey, because like Kylie said that she had to go back and forth on the survey many times, and also like run like people come, they drop their like many different opinions, and it's hard
Right,
to.
I think, but that's what I meant, like how we put together the questions, right? Like I think her complaint was like, you're changing the questions at the last minute, right? Right, which is what
Yes.
was happening, right? So yeah.
All right. So going back to Q5, I think this one is pretty much expected.
Yep.
Like I don't see anything crazy here, like nothing that surprised me. The number seems in line. Like probably this like direct end users, it's like high.
Yeah, that was a good, like that. I think that's good. I think
Yeah.
the other thing I would sort of note is like we're very happy with the numbers.
Yeah.
Like 2,900 is, I forget what it was last year, but it was like higher than last year.
I think it was 1,200 or something like that, like last year.
Yeah, like it increased a lot. Like this year we had a very big response.
Yeah, what was it last year? I'm just gonna go back and take a look. Okay, where? Yeah, that's not giving me the actual. Oh, wait a second. There was.
1667.
Okay. Thanks. I'm just gonna put that in the most 16.
It's almost twice,
So
right?
almost.
Yeah, plus technically plus what, 60-70%, I think.
Okay, so that's good. I think we can always, that's nice to get more out there, but maybe it's something where, we'll see if we grow again next year because like no more people know it was out there. Certainly like the blog post that you put together, Marco, should help people thinking about it for the next year and everything.
Yeah. Okay. Can we should we go
Yep.
to Q7?
Sounds good.
Okay.
So
Oh wait, let me get back the other results from Q5 just to go through very quickly. So
Sure.
we have all but not core, all of the above, application developer, library, package. So basically all the above. Backend developer. Like a lot of people are like confused, but I guess we will always have random answers.
Yeah.
We have someone from marketing. We have some architects, student, test automation engineer, and that's it. All of the above. So like since only 41 other, I think we did a good job with the list of.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Okay. Going to Q7, we have what operating system is your local development environment?
Actually, sorry, I just wanted to ask one question on Q6, Q5 again.
Okay, yeah.
No, Q6. Sorry, I got the wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Q5, Q6. Was anybody surprised by the like only 8% static websites? For some reason, I thought that would have been higher. Like, you use Node to generate your React website, but then you basically publish it as a static site.
Yeah,
Just me or?
yeah, I'm surprised that I'm guessing people were expecting maybe as we put Next.js Remix, maybe everyone thought about SPA framework, so React, Angular, Vue.js in that part, and people may have considered building static front-end application as Gulp, Grunt, old school stuff.
Yeah. when you put static,
Yeah.
like people think, hey, this is like a Webpack. I
Right.
think we should rename it to building front-end application, Angular, React,
Yeah.
etc. And that would like increase by a lot the number of like
It's pretty,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's
answers.
interesting. Like Next.js by default, if you run it yourself, you are running under Node.
Yeah.
So like the deploying front ends, that I could see being a fairly high number just because you have to make an extra effort to convert it into something static. And if you have any backend services like Next kind of makes it easier to just say, well, okay, I'm going to serve it with Node as well. But that's one where I wonder, yeah, maybe next year we can refine the wording a little bit because it's a little surprising that there is more just like, hey, we end up with a static site. Still maybe
Yeah,
using backend services, but the site itself doesn't run on Node when it's deployed. Okay, sorry, let's
yeah.
go on, run out of time.
Okay. So Q7, what operating system is your local development environment? And
So
we have
macOS as the first one.
sorry?
macOS being the first one in percentage. Like this one was a
Oh
bit
yeah.
surprising for me. Like I would have expected, not to be honest, I would have expected to have Windows last. Maybe Linux.
No.
Ah,
Like
yeah,
because
Windows is
like
used a
in
lot in
companies
enterprise.
nobody.
true,
Yeah,
true.
in like big enterprise nobody uses Linux for development. Like people usually use
I wouldn't
Windows.
say nobody, but like
Yeah, not nobody, but like
a
most
Limited.
smaller
corporate.
number. Like
Yeah.
it's actually, the fact that Linux is almost up there in equal in terms of Windows.
Yeah.
I think as
This
the
one,
trend is shifting a little bit, right? Like, what do you call it when you're using WSL? It's almost like,
We have
oh,
Windows
you're
with
right, we do have
WS.
that. So that's another 6%.
yep.
Yeah, so Windows is 31%. Then we have Windows with Docker. Like
Yeah.
Windows, like who develops on Windows? Like
So
if
this
you
like
develop on Windows, you also like could be developing on Windows and
so
Docker.
this one is interesting because we like part of the Node.js project. I know it's always people are jokingly tweeting about having to start a Windows computer to do some work and stuff like that, which is quite interesting to see that like 25% or technically even more, like 30% of our users are using Windows to use Node.js or build with Node.js. So is it something that could be nice to provide a feedback or something?
I don't know if I would probably remove the like Linux with Docker. Does it mean that you develop on a Linux machine with a Docker container of another architectures or what?
Well, you can easily, like, I run my desktop as Linux, but then when I develop anything, I'm typically targeting a container. So like you package something into a container, and then that's your container is what you deployed. So I think it's Linux, but heavy use of Docker is just like you could be using Windows, but if you're using Windows with Docker, it means you're using effectively something else in your containers.
And
It is,
how does it like matter for us if you like okay it's important if you use like if you develop on Linux, but if you create like if you use Docker as an image for production, like then it goes into what operating systems or production environment. So
So
I think like for me, it's interesting for like how many people are using a containerized workflow.
okay.
Like I think we can look at the next one. Like it's often like, do we have Linux with Docker? Yeah, so Linux with Docker is 30%, right? So basically, it's almost assumed like a very large sort of deployment is using Docker. in production. And then this kind of says like, well, how many people has that also made it onto their desktop? So like I develop with my things in Docker locally, or am I just developing them on my own and then they get packaged into something, into a Docker container for production?
So do we want, so one also following question on that is, next year, is it interesting for us to have a split between Linux, Windows, and macOS with Docker, or next year do we want to just have Docker?
Well, I think that might lose some information, right? Because then we don't get as much, like if they just say Docker, we don't know if they're using Windows, Linux.
Yeah, but for us, is it something that matter technically? Like if they are targeting Docker at the end of the day on their build and everything, I will like, except if we start asking, are you running Docker, with which architecture, on which image and stuff like that, do we want to go that way and that far, or are we?
So I guess like instead we could, like, we can leave what operating system is your local development environment, and like we could split it into a question like, do you use Docker in your like development workflow? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And so like probably
This is
that would be
still
more meaningful.
this still gives us a little bit more information in that it ties them together. So we could do a separate question like, do you use, but this tells us like how many Windows people are using Docker, how many Mac OS people are using. Like, to be honest, I would have expected more Windows people using Docker. Because like
Yeah.
you're working on Windows, but quite likely you're targeting Linux for deployment. So like how do you handle that mismatch on your desktop, right? Like I would think Docker would have been a natural thing, right? You're like, okay, well, like even though I have a Windows desktop, I can actually run my application the way it's going to be deployed in the Docker container. But it doesn't really reflect that, right? Because I'd say this question worked pretty well, right? Like, did we get a lot of other write-ins? I guess we got a small
No,
number of others,
like
right?
40. And the missing ones are all the above, Android, all of the above, free BSD, but okay. macOS, like all of the above, Windows and Mac, React OS, which I don't know what that is.
React
But
OS?
yeah, but like the 40 answers that were marked as other are Android and all of the above, and that's it.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, like we should probably include Android. Remember to include Android for the future.
Yeah, although it's not a supported platform, but
So tier something, tier 2?
I don't think
I
it's
don't know.
even tier 2. It's experimental, if anything. We don't build it anywhere. We don't ship any binaries.
Okay.
But it doesn't,
Check.
if it's one that was written in a fair amount, it doesn't hurt.
No, it was not like too much. It was like yeah. I think we can go to the next one.
Okay.
So what operating system is your production environment? We have like Linux 54%. I think this was like expected. We have Windows 10%. I think this is not expected. Like Windows servers, really? Like 9.5%. Then we have macOS 2%. Also, this one is like very low as expected.
Yeah.
Linux with Docker. So I guess like Linux with Docker is
I'm
it?
guessing Kubernetes stuff or anything else, I would guess.
I don't know. It's a bit vague in the way that it's phrased. Like it's a Docker Linux image, or it's like a Linux machine running Docker, and the Docker image is whatever.
I think you're right. We could like we could say Linux host running containers or something might be more specific. But that's what I assume that means is like I'm running Linux as my host operating system, but I'm using containers on top of that.
Yeah.
So that says to me like it's 85% Linux, 30% of the people saying that they're using Docker or containers on Linux.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that the containers aren't higher than that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, I would have.
Like bare metal stuff.
Yeah, that says
54.
that 50% of those are just bare metal deployments.
Yeah.
I think we can like be more specific with wording. Like
Yeah,
when we say Linux, let's say bare metal Linux. When we say like Linux Docker image on, or like we can say Linux host or virtualization on Linux machine, or like we can bike shed on this, but like this is like I think we can be more specific. So
yeah, I just
Yep.
took a quick note in there and like bare metal Linux and Linux host with containers as an example. For example. Yeah,
And
yeah.
as a quick question, what's part of others? Like because it's above macOS server.
yes, so
Starting-
we have all of the above, Android again, AWS, as if AWS was not running on. We have Lambda,
Okay, say
serverless, both Chromebook.
Chromebook
Um,
in pro. Okay, so it's people building Node.js application running on a desktop then?
yeah, because I think if you like have desktop application, you like your production environment is everything.
Yeah.
That then we have Firebase, which is like serverless. I assume we have FreeBSD, but there is just one and doesn't matter. iOS, Android, Kubernetes. Um, we have Linux, Azure, Linux, Kubernetes, blah blah blah, Lambda, Linux with Docker, Linux with Kubernetes, Linux with Podman, macOS. Then we have mobile. We have like all of the above. We have serverless. We have Ubuntu, Vercel, whatever.
So,
I think
So
serverless would be a good one to include, right?
but
yeah.
so this one for serverless, it really depends. Like I'm guessing now you can deploy using a runtime provided by the cloud provider or a Docker image. And I would globally guess that on AWS, Lambda are not running on top of macOS.
I think most serverless we could assume is running Linux under the covers,
Yeah.
but like I think the point is that people may not know, right? Like
Sure.
effectively you say here's my serverless code and like whatever it's running on, and we'll have to guess because the end user probably doesn't know, doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also like I guess we were trying to understand operating system a little bit. Kind of interesting, like, do we ever want to get into like host like cloud providers or something like that? And does that matter to us, or like,
I'm not,
whether it's Vercel, AWS or whatever?
to be honest, I'm not sure, but I would say that for next year, maybe first we don't name with Docker because people seems to like we wanted to say containers, so maybe containers would be better so
Right.
that it
Yep.
would regroup everything. And the next one, do we want to specify serverless close next to Linux? like Linux, Linux slash Unix, parentheses, bare metal, serverless, stuff like that.
Like I would leave serverless as a different option because like technically like you don't need to know what's the operating system. So like I guess we could add as an option.
Yeah.
We could say like, I don't know, serverless, blah, 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 or something, right?
Because on the previous question, I think we had what 8% of people that say that they were building API on serverless.
Yeah. But they may, like, lots of people might say, okay, I'm assuming that's Linux or something.
Yeah. Okay. Should we go to next one?
Yeah.
Okay, then we go to Q9. We have what is the architecture in which you're running Node? So we have 68%, we have x64 expected, but like also 23% on ARM is like interesting. Like, yeah, ARM gained a lot of popularity recently, but I did not expect to have like all these people on ARM. But probably because they are macOS developers and we didn't specify if it's on development or production.
Right.
So does it matter? I don't know.
So to be honest, it could be that's a good. So one of my questions, can you buy a new macOS system today as a developer that is not running an ARM processor?
No, I think all the latest macOS run ARM and like only old ones have x64. I don't think you can buy.
So maybe we could say, so I was checking for last year result. Last year result, we were at 90% of people answered x64, and we had 20% of people answering ARM. And then the other one, like 1 or 2%.
So like one thing that
Did it crash?
Possibly.
we ask
Oh, okay.
the user what they're using, so we match it with like, hey, these are the version we support, and we see how many people use
Yeah, we lost you for a few minutes, a few seconds.
development or production.
Yeah, it is interesting that the ARM pipe might come from Mac usage, but
it improved from last year. Last year we were at 20, maybe 21%, I think. So it's a 10% increase, it seems.
Let me read like on others. We don't have many, but we have on all the above. We have Android with Apple M chips, like that's ARM. That's a lot of people that don't know that Apple Silicon is ARM.
Okay.
We have both. We have Raspberry, which is ARM.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't think Raspberry is ARM64. I think it's ARM something else, right? I'm not an expert.
well, it's not x64, but there is I think they're saying they use ARM and x64 for most things.
Okay. Then we have someone running x86. We have like we have both x86. So I assume it's like 32 bits Windows.
Yeah, which is AI 32, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, the 32-bit version, which I think is now gone. So
yeah.
I think on that one,
Uh,
it's like barely like it's understood most as x64, and for ARM growing, it maybe just is like, yeah, okay, that continues to be like that's a growing trend. It would have, I think it would have been interesting to know whether it's from production or like on your desktop, right?
yeah, we probably need to specify, and we can probably group it with the operating system to see, like, especially on development, because on production, yeah, I think also on production, but I don't know. And also, like, uh, we don't have many people using PowerPC, thank God. We don't have many people using IBM,
Yeah, but the fun
like
stuff,
mainframe. So
you have more people using PowerPC than a 32-bit Windows.
Yeah, it makes
which is
sense. There's, I mean, those are smaller architectures, but it's good to see people filling out the survey.
yeah. Okay, cool. Like nothing crazy from this one. Probably the like it's a bit confusing to
Yeah.
we should specify next year if it's
Yeah, we can
development
ask
or
about the
production.
architecture was production or development. Otherwise, like I think we might say like it shows a trend for increasing importance on ARM, right?
Yeah.
All right. Q10, we have uh, like number one, Node.js version manager, so NVM, etc. Like only 13% use the official installer. I assume the official installer is on Windows, right?
There's one on Mac and Windows, I think.
Oh, okay. Then we have uh, using package managers like npm and install Node as package. Is this a thing? I don't know about it. Using a system manager. Okay, this on servers, I think. Like most people would install Node on the with apt-get Node. We have downloading binaries and building Node from source, and we have other. Other is not too small, so let me have a look. How do you get your Node executables? The answer is ban. Someone answered ban. Okay.
Yeah, there's always somebody who thinks they're funny.
Yeah. We have Ansible, which downloads binaries directly. I don't think like I think Ansible downloads the binaries from somewhere, and that somewhere is like you have to tell Ansible. But
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
ASDF, Nix, AWS Lambda. So technically, you don't download your
Yeah,
binary.
no, it's yeah.
DevBox, Docker, FNM, no idea. What's that? We have someone from Homebrew. Uh, we have someone from a tool called Mise, which I have no
Actually, that
idea.
is a good point that we probably missed containers.
Yeah.
Like, because if you basically just spin up a container, you don't need, like, you're not installing it. You can either spin up the official containers or like, Red Hat has containers with the Red Hat node in it. So we should probably add containers as a way.
Yeah, we have done a lot of people of Nix packages, but I guess that in like Nix packages are comparable to package like whatever package manager like apt or yum or whatever. Node.js, like another Docker image, NVM Docker image, PNPM env, Podman images, Docker, Vercel, Volta, Winget, and FNM.
The other thing that might be
So
interesting is to ask separately for production and for development. Because like Node Version Manager, I got to think you're not using that on your production machines, right? Like that's a development time thing. where you say, get me a version, switch versions, but in production, I don't think you're ever going to do that.
Yeah.
But I think the interesting thing is that, like, the highest one is definitely a version manager. So, try that. Like, if you want to improve experience of getting the binaries, that's the one to work on, right?
Yeah. I think we should just add Docker image, like for sure, like
Yeah.
at least container, and like we have time for last one, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
We were at Q10, we go to Q11. Which package manager do you use? We have 61% of NPM, so NPM still very strong. We have Yarn V1, 6%, and Yarn V3. And then we have PNPM, which is also like big,
I'm
like much
surprised.
bigger than Yarn.
Yeah, I'm surprised to have PNPM way bigger than Yarn, even Yarn 2, almost a double of the full Yarn ecosystem.
And then we have on others, we have a lot of Bun. So apparently they use Bun as a package manager. We have Espresso, people who don't know, NPM and multiple, mainly NPM. And we have Yarn V4. Didn't know about Yarn V4, but there are a lot of Yarn V4 users.
There is a V4 of Yarn now.
That was I learned that too through that survey. So
Okay. Okay, that I was
like
okay.
I think we don't need to specify which version of Yarn. Like, do we care about if it's Yarn V1, 2, 3, 4?
The only thing is, like, it's a bit confusing in that Yarn V1 is almost like a different thing than V3.
Yeah.
So it is, because of that, like, I don't know if it matters whether it's Yarn V3, V4, whatever, but like there's kind of like new Yarn and old Yarn, is at least my understanding. I'm sure the people would be totally disagreeing with that, but some people, like, and understanding which of those two it falls into would be interesting. But it is interesting to me, especially that like PNPM is the second one.
Yep.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like, these are all things that are like very interesting to gather feedback on. Like, there was like who wanted to remove NPM, like, hey, this is like when there was a discussion about removing and unbundling NPM, like, hey, this is the percentage of usage. So like,
But
I
people
think
might say, but that's because it's bundled in, right? Like, so
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I think we only got 2 minutes, so I think we should probably close out.
Yeah.
I guess it sounds like we should continue on. I think the last ones will be, anyway, we should continue on. Some of the other questions at the end, like around TypeScript and ESM, I think might have more of the actions. Most of these ones, it seems like we might tweak our questions, but I'm not sure, like, would we do anything in particular as a like a new initiative or anything out of these? I haven't heard anything yet, but definitely some good and interesting data.
True.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll see everybody in a couple of weeks, and we'll continue to work through that. It's really, really great data. Okay, thanks. Talk to everybody later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.